Just trying to spread awareness and positivity to this world. You know, there's a lot of things going on in 2023. We just have a little... No, that's a microwave. So basically, we're trying to ban fried chicken, watermelon, Kool-Aid, and
Nah,
rappers.
I'm on it. Shit, I hate black people.
Why'd you sign so quick?
Bro, you gotta get rid of us.
We're just...
This spider can remove your limbs. But how? Introducing the brown recluse, native to the United States of America, and a prime example of don't judge a book by its cover. Because despite only coming in at a huge 2 centimeters in length and rocking the spider equivalent of default character customization, this little f***er is a level 500 rot build that gives Melania a run for her money. You see, a bite from a recluse starts in the most American way possible, with you accidentally stepping foot onto his private property, causing him to exercise his Second Amendment rights. But considering a spider can't really hold a gun, he's gonna settle on biting your ass. Now, that initial bite's pretty painless. You smack him away, all's well. There is just one small problem. Congratulations, you are now the proud owner of necrotic venom coursing through your veins, which at first does nothing. You walk back to your house, the bite starts to sting a little more. You feel sick. The wound swells, and the blood vessels around the bite burst, turning it a deep red. Over the next few days, that colour shifts from red to purple to black, as the venom literally destroys and kills the surrounding tissue in a process called necrosis. This causes the skin to literally rot and fall off of your body, and if you don't catch it in time, that rot's gonna spread. If you're lucky, it'll only make you violently ill and leave permanent scarring. If you're unlucky, it just keeps spreading, and venom starts to destroy your blood cells and shut your organs down. Now, there's kind of only one solution to that, but you weren't using that arm anyway, right? If you see this thing T-pose, run! Introducing the anteater, a goofy little creature native to Brazil, and to understand why the absolute stance on this bad boy is a threat to your health, you're gonna have to understand a little about his lifestyle first. Now listen, I know this may come as a shock to you, but the anteater eats ants. And weighing in at 40 kilos and 1.8 meters in length, he needs to consume upwards of 40,000 ants per day. Now, in order to help him hit his bulking goals, the anteater has a mystery mouse tool stored inside that XL sniffer. A 60 centimeter long tongue, designed to snake its way down an ant colony's tunnel network, smash into their living room, and abduct the entire cast of Bug's life and convert them into a high-calorie meal. However, what that tongue do only goes so far, as an ant colony can extend up to 4 meters underground, and termites live in high-rises, which means our boy here is going to have to do a little excavation to get to the goods. But last I checked, an anteater can't go down to Bunnings and buy a shovel. So how does he dig? Oh, that's simple, with the combat knives he has for claws. Yeah, anteaters are permanently cosplaying Freddy Krueger with a set of 4-inch claws, which, proving the effectiveness of a few inches, can crack through f***ing concrete. Now, these work great for digging, but they are also more than capable of flatlining you. When threatened, the anteater will rear up into a defensive T-pose. This is your sign, if you are smart, to turn around and f*** all the way off. If, however, you were, say, some dumbass trophy hunter who really felt the need to try and stab an animal for no reason other than ego, the anteater will swipe at you with those claws, which are at the perfect height to nail you in a fight, slip through your flesh like butter, and sever your femoral artery, causing you to bleed out in 2 minutes while the anteater watches you go meet your ancestors. Can you imagine having to explain to your ancestors who felled woolly mammoths you got your shit packed up by the most unserious creature on the planet hitting a T-pose? Koalas are really dumb. In fact, Australia's fuzzy icon is probably the dumbest thing on the planet. And that stupidity starts with their diet, because of all the things they could have chosen to eat, they chose to eat nothing but straight up poison. You see, koalas feed exclusively on eucalyptus leaves, which, shocking no one, are highly toxic, because they are full to the brim with eucalypt oil, which is so fucking poisonous that as little as 3.75 mil is enough to land you in the afterlife, with the Reaper asking you why the fuck you felt the need to eat a leaf.
Why?
Oh, it's also highly flammable and burns like napalm, because Australia. Now, despite nature putting up this giant do not eat sign, that did not stop the koala, because he can't fucking read. This suboptimal bulking diet not only gives the koala fuck all in the way of nutrition, but also requires their body to rest to filter out the toxins so they don't fucking cark it. Meaning they need to spend upwards of 18 hours a day sleeping in order to just digest their fucking food. These dumbasses spend most of their life in a food coma. That is, however, if they even get to the food to begin with, because they are so mind-numbingly brain dead that they will not recognize a eucalyptus leaf as food unless it is on the branch. I could give this dumbass a lifetime supply of food, and if it wasn't on a stick, he would starve to death. It should come as no surprise to you at this point that the koala has such an esky temperature IQ that they literally have a smooth brain. The thoughts slide right off of this dumb c***. I love him. Scientists just de-extincted a 12,000-year-old dog. Well, kinda. You see, a bioengineering company called Colossal has dedicated itself to doing what every single Jurassic Park film has told us is a bad idea. Bringing back extinct species. And recently, they made a breakthrough. They have managed to bring back the 12,000-year-old direwolf. You know those big-ass puppies from Game of Thrones that the Starks had? Yeah, those were actually a real-ass animal, alive during the late Ice Age. And the best way I can describe them to you is, basically a wolf on steroids. Yeah, buddy! These things were bigger, faster, and stronger, estimated to have the highest bite force out of any canine. And in a move that I'm sure has no implications, they have managed to bring these bad boys back to life. These two little guys are now 6 months old and have been living on a private plot of land with 24/7 veterinary care. However, they've only just been shown off to the public, with the company going so far as to get a photo op with George R.R. Martin holding one of these adorable little killing machines, showing that man will literally interact with an extinct species before he finishes that last f***ing book. There is, however, one small problem. This isn't technically a direwolf. You see, by merit of them being extinct, short of specking into necromancy, you can't exactly bring them back. Which is where this guy comes in. You see, the grey wolf shares 99.5% of its genetic code with the direwolf. So, using CRISPR gene editing, they basically toss the grey wolf back into the spore creature creator, then using the code found in direwolf fossils as a build guide, juiced the out of it, boosting the size slider and putting some extra points into strength, as well as adjusting its head shape and teeth. All in all, they made a total of 20 edits to 14 genes, producing the closest thing we can get to a direwolf short of time travel. Which is cool as f***. I give it 5 years before a man-made horror beyond comprehension breaks out of that f***ing lab and we are all playing Resident Evil. Australia lost a war to emus. But how? How the f*** did we lose an armed conflict with flightless birds? Well, it all started in 1932 when farmers in Western Australia wanted to grow wheat. There was just one major problem. That's emu territory, and emus really like wheat. And coming in at 6 foot tall and 40 kilos in weight, they can eat a lot of it. So when breeding season came around, the emus migrated through the farmland, and these poor farmers were overwhelmed by a tyrannid swarm of man-sized poultry, 20,000 emus strong. These feathered tanks then proceeded to completely steamroll through the fences into the fields and started laying waste to the wheat. The farmers attempted to fight back the initial wave with rifle fire, but their efforts were, putting it lightly, completely useless. This ginormous L made the farmers pretty bloody angry, so they gathered together and went to the government to ask for help. Sir, 20,000 emus have hit the wheat fields. Me, mate. And so the government declared the emus enemies of the state and sent in the army to commence the Great Emu War. The entire 7th Heavy Artillery Division was deployed to WA, armed with 2 LMGs, 10,000 rounds, and the sole objective to blast anything with feathers. A little bit excessive for an overgrown turkey if you ask me, and upon their first deployment, the army immediately ran into a major problem. Emus are fast.
I am speed.
Really fast, clocking a top speed of 50 kilometers an hour, which meant that once they opened fire, the emus would immediately bolt out of range of their weapons. But they still took a crack at it, and then immediately stopped when both LMGs jammed after only dropping 12 emus. This embarrassment led the army to retreat and rethink their plan. So a few weeks later they returned, this time mounting the LMGs on trucks in an attempt to run the birds down. However, this also didn't work, because after figuring out that those trucks meant they were about to be turned into a KFC family bucket, the emus started leaving scout birds who would warn the flock of the approaching trucks, which gave them all enough time to book it before the army even got there. And whenever they did catch the emus, they found out they were kind of... because emus are mostly feathers, and there's a lot of places you can hit on them without doing any damage, meaning it was taking around 10 bullets for every 1 bird. So after a month of blood, sweat, tears, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition, the army managed to bring down 960. The population was 20,000. This was an issue as, unlike America, our defense budget is not a bottomless pit. So the army had wasted all that money to achieve absolutely f*** all. So the government just kind of built a really long, really shit fence around the farms and called it a day. How the f*** did we lose this? I could have done a better job with a boomerang and a cricket bat. Most snails aren't scary, except for this one. This one's Australian. Introducing the cone snail, an aquatic mollusk native to the land down under. And as seems to be the requirement when sharing your postcode with a kangaroo, you guessed it, it can quite easily cause your neck snap to be in a coffin. And the way it can achieve it is this bad boy right here. You see, despite most snails having a reputation for being slow goobers that get folded by a salt shaker, the cone snail is a highly effective ambush predator, and you may be wondering, how the fuck does a creature that moves slower than the GTA 6 development cycle hunt anything? Well, that's simple. It has a grappling hook. That's right, Gary's murderous little cousin here is a roadhog, mate.
Hi there.
And he hunts by slowly but surely stalking up on his prey until he's just within range, and then bang! The cone snail does a quarter circle input, spitting out a tooth harpoon at 90 kilometers an hour. This harpoon then nails its prey, allowing them to reel it in like he's playing Scorpion. And in case that wasn't bad enough, as seems to be a requirement for spawning on Australian servers, it's venomous. That harpoon also injects its prey with a highly potent neurotoxin that instantly paralyzes it. This means it cannot put up a fight, as it is sucked into the snail's ginormous maw like a nightmarish version of Kirby. And, just in case you thought for once you might be safe, cone snail venom is potent enough to kill 700 people with 1 sting. Oh yeah, and there's no anti-venom, because it's not enough that it can kill me. No, I have to die knowing there is 0 counterplay. Who balanced this This shrimp can cause explosions.
My main goal is to blow up.
Introducing the mantis shrimp, native to the West Indo-Pacific Ocean and possibly the coolest crustacean under the sea, because this fluorescent armored sausage is actually a voracious, bloodthirsty predator rocking enough surveillance equipment to scare the CIA with a weapon powerful enough to surpass Metal Gear. See, the mantis shrimp is a highly effective predator, and they find and track their prey with easily the most advanced set of eyes on the fucking planet. First off, each of these eye stalks can rotate independently like a periscope, giving them a full 360 degrees of vision. However, more importantly, they can see colours we can't. You see, the mantis shrimp's eyes contain a full 15 photoreceptor cones compared to our 3. Which is a fancy way of saying they can see in 16K HDR with ray tracing enabled at 500 render distance.
Oh my PC.
Now, not only is the visual clarity unmatched, they can also see into the infrared and ultraviolet light spectrums. And despite all of this, they still can't find who asked. What they can, however, find is their next meal. The mantis shrimp subsists on a diet of fish, worms, squidward, and, most importantly, Mr. Krabs. Now, crabs famously exist inside of a defensive shell. So, how does this polite little gentleman break into the shell? Simple. He throws hands. That's right, weighing in at only 90 grams and 38 centimeters in length, the mantis shrimp has a punch that produces 15,000 newtons of force. That is 176 newtons per gram. So if a human was capable of that same kind of force, a right hook from someone who weighs 80 kilo would be like getting hit in the face with 6 sticks of dynamite. Now, to produce that force, its claw needs to be moving at 83 kilometers an hour, which is so fast it creates a vacuum in the water called a cavitation bubble, which then immediately collapses at such a speed it creates a miniature explosion that flashbangs the target and reaches a temperature hotter than the surface of the sun. Mr. Krabs is getting f***ing disintegrated.
Money, money, money.
Australia just found a new record-breaking insect. But before I show him to you, how the f*** do we keep finding new bugs? You see, Australia is home to an estimated 200,000 species of insect, which is pretty damn impressive, especially when you consider the only place you're going to find more bugs than that is by counting the f***ing roach population in Asmongold's walls. Now, the scary part of this is that out of that 200k, we've only actually identified 62,000. Meaning that we have no idea what nearly 3/4 of the bugs in the country actually fucking do.
You like jazz?
And so it should come as no surprise that while exploring Australia's dense rainforests, 2 scientists discovered a new record holder for the largest insect in the land down under, and it's a fucking stick bug. Introducing Acrophila alta, and coming in at a full 40 centimeters and 44 grams in weight. I don't think that qualifies as a stick insect anymore. That's fucking Groot! Australia's very own Erd tree avatar was discovered in Queensland. Because of course it fucking was. And despite being enough inches in length to make any man jealous, it's actually completely harmless. However, given how many oversized bugs we already have, if we find any more, I think they're gonna send the fucking helldivers. Dolphins get drunk. But why? Well, you see, the dolphin is by far and away the smartest animal in the ocean. In fact, they're actually the second smartest thing on the planet, just behind you and me. This means they are smart enough to understand that the ideal way to spend your night is more plastered than Chad and Max on your average Cold Ones episode. Shut up! There is just one problem. Last I checked, there's no bottle-o in Bikini Bottom. So, how does a dolphin get fired for all? Simple. They abuse pufferfish. You see, due to the lack of underwater alcohol, dolphins need to find other ways to get their fix, which is where SpongeBob's driving instructor comes in. You see, pufferfish contain this really cool and totally not dangerous substance called tetrodotoxin. What is tetrodotoxin? You know, it's only one of the most potent natural neurotoxins on the fucking planet. This shit will freeze your heart and lungs in under an hour with a tiny dose. And it's the reason why cooking a pufferfish requires a dexterity check so you don't, hit the poison gland and get yourself deleted. Now, puffers carry this as a defense mechanism as poison accumulates in their organs and skin. Why is that important? Well, you see, I kinda lied. Dolphins don't get drunk. They get high on neurotoxin.
¿Quieres?
Pods of dolphins will bully pufferfish until they inflate, then partake in a literal puff-puff pass. By lightly squeezing the puffer in their mouth, they receive a small dose of neurotoxin, which has a narcotic effect, allowing Flipper here to trip balls before passing the unhappy basketball onto the next submarine stoner. Flipper and friends saw the deadliest neurotoxin on the planet and said, fuck it, let me try some of that. I ate lunch with a wild lizard. Yahoo! You see, before I made the videos, I worked as a handyman, and one day a client asked me to do some brush cutting because their lawn was, putting it lightly, completely f***ed. So I'm taming a miniaturized version of the Amazon jungle, and I see something that nearly gives me a heart attack. A big lump of scales slithering through the brush about 2 steps ahead of me. Being Australian, I immediately assumed it was a snake, which is a problem, because the only 2 snakes in my home state are highly venomous and extremely aggressive. So I immediately stopped what I was doing, backed the f*** up, and got ready to call in the snake catcher to relocate the angry hospital noodle. Help me. However, while dialing the number, I noticed something. That was, kinda too fat to be a snake, and it hadn't tried to eat me yet. So, being the poster child for why women live longer than men, I waddled back over for a closer look, and I found this little guy. This is a blue-tongue lizard, and they're actually pretty cool. Native to Australia, these bad boys are basically a tubby skink, but as the name suggests, they have a bright blue neon tongue. Now, I couldn't just leave this distinguished gentleman in harm's way, so I yoinked him and began looking for a place to relocate him away from where I was working. However, during the relocation process, this cute little man proceeded to cuddle up to my shirt and fall asleep, and did not particularly appreciate me trying to move him from his resting place. So, considering it was the middle of the day, I just said, fuck it, called a lunch break, and proceeded to sit in the sun eating a chicken sandwich while Godzilla's little cousin took a nap on my shirt. He sat with me for my entire 30-minute lunch break without me holding him. However, unfortunately, I was only halfway through my workday, so after I wrapped up lunch, I had to say goodbye. I very delicately removed my new scaled friend from my shirt and released him back into the wild.
Alrighty, big fella. Off you go. Back into the bushes. There you go. See you, friend.
I think this incident legally qualifies me as the first Australian Disney princess.